I'm the participation manager for Table Tennis England. So I manage a team that works on programs such as TT Kids, Bat and Chat, Back to TT, and I've also been driving some of the women and girls work. And my colleague tonight, Claire Warner, Clubs, Leagues and Schools Manager, will be helping as well, but also be able to help with any questions on clubs, leagues and schools that you might have that may come up during this webinar as well. So as I said, please stay muted, keep your cameras off, use the chat box as much as you want, feel free to introduce yourself, say where you're from and why you want to join tonight as well. We are recording this and we will be sharing this with people that weren't able to attend due to league matches or they were busy. So yes, we're sharing this afterwards, but there will be a chance at the end to unmute, to turn cameras on, to talk about stuff as well. So there'll be opportunity to chat. This first part is quite informational. So the aim of tonight, so what we'll cover, so we're going to go talk about some barriers for women and girls, how to overcome them, key things to consider when wanting to engage new members, and some practical examples as well. Information that is shared in this PowerPoint is sourced from Table Tennis England surveys, so our membership surveys, or anything we've done outside of that. For example, the big conversation we did about 2-3 years ago now, Sport England Active Lives, and Women in Sport research as well. I'll include links to all of these when we send out the information afterwards. And there's some really good kind of stats and facts on there as well. So if you are interested in this, there's lots of good information there that you can learn much more about. So hopefully everyone is aware of this, but at Table Tennis England, we are focusing on the future goal of gender parity. I won't read through this. Oh. Sorry, Wendy, can I put you on mute? There we go. So yeah, so we're focusing on the future goal of gender parity. This doesn't just mean participation, but this is really focusing across the sport as a whole, all elements of it. We're really looking to make sure there are clear opportunities across the sport. We're looking at how volunteers, coaches, and officials can be more representative, and we're really wanting to help women and girls in the sport or may join the sport feel more valued, feel they belong, and make them more visible to each other, but also wider members in the sport as well. So what have we done so far? So this is a goal that we set ourselves in March, appreciating it's a long-term goal. It's not something that will change overnight, but we have really been focusing on supporting more opportunities. So we've done this through funding through Level Table grants. We're also supporting targeted focus work, for example, TT Kids for Girls projects, and lots of kind of individual women and girls projects as well. We've been raising the profile of women and girls across the sport through our ambassador program, but also more reflective imagery on our website and articles, and working to understand more about how we reach and how we speak to women and girls in our sport, but also potential new members. We're working with clubs directly about how to provide more suitable women and girls opportunities, and this is through things like this as well, but through a lot of insight and also resources. We've been supporting women coaches through grants such as Charlie Child's, which is still open and still available to be applied towards. And also we've been continuing to develop ourselves to understand more about women and girls generally in sport and how that is applied to table tennis. We have lots coming up, for example, new partnerships that take the sport to women, but also showcasing how the sport can benefit them. We're building our insight and data. We're making our programs more fit for purpose and providing lots of expertise there as well, but also doing some targeted work with our clubs, but also kind of different organisations as well. So there's lots going on, and it's an area which is really growing. So talking about barriers tonight, and I really went kind of back to the start of kind of where some of the barriers for women and girls can come from. Just to point out, I do say women and girls is kind of a term, but we wouldn't ever kind of expect women and girls to be engaged in the same session. We would be talking about women or girls, thinking of how the different life stages they go through as well. So generally in sport, women are significantly less active than men. So 39% of women aged 16 or over are not active enough to get the full health benefits of sport and physical activity, compared to 35% of men. Girls continue to be significantly less active than boys, with a gap of around 213,000. So there is a real difference there, and the drop-off gets so much stronger going from primary school age to secondary school age as well. There's a real kind of difference in that as well. At table tennis, our current membership, like for last year, so pre-renewals, is 12%. However, we know this isn't reflective of the sport. Across our social programs, this is much higher. So bat and chat is over 50% women compared to men. Our TT Kids program is creeping closer and closer to being about 45-50% girls and boys taking part in it. And our ping program, our parlor program, we have a lot of women involved. So we know that there are women in sport, just aren't always reflected by our membership. As well as girls not taking part in sport as much, focusing on kind of the younger age groups, so the under 11s, it is a trend from that age group upwards that girls continue to have a lower physical literacy than boys throughout every age group. And then this kind of then affects their enjoyment of sport, their confidence and competence in the sports they play. And that then has a knock-on effect on them wanting to be involved. The big positive here, though, is that generally that women who aren't active enough or aren't involved in sport do want to be involved. They know the benefits of sport and exercise, and they know that it could be really great for them, but often it's not the right opportunity. So in this kind of table here on the slide, I've just put kind of some really general barriers that are often, when we ask people in sport or through in a sport or active lives, have fed back why they don't take part. And this is very kind of general, but it is quite common across a lot of the age groups. So like cost, the lack of right time or availability, their own confidence, getting to an age where they feel like sport isn't for them, or they can't be a beginner as well. The opportunity just doesn't appeal to them. They're unaware completely the activity is happening. It could be that they're really close to a leisure centre or a facility, but just don't know what's going on, and then unsure of why that sport would appeal to them. There's many barriers for women and girls in sport, but those are always the top ones which come out as the general, I can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. So moving more on to table tennis specifically, the ones that general barriers still apply, but more on table tennis specifically, these are the main feedback we get, and this has also been shown in the TAS research, which focuses on the 18 to 30 age group, and these were the key barriers of why that age group stopped playing. So lack of women-only training opportunities or competing opportunities, so wanting to take part with women not being mixed sessions, and that probably also goes down to often being the only woman in that session as well. Lack of women and girls role models, lack of opportunities to play the same age group. So with feedback we get from competitions or in the past, we've gone to a session and it's such a wide range of age groups. There might be more women there or more girls there, but it's hard to play with kind of the people they're there with, because they aren't going through the same life stage as them. And that's a really big impact on keeping someone into the sport as well. Had a negative experience, whatever that might have been. Education work environments, obviously going from primary to secondary, it's a big impact on, it's a big life change, but also from that secondary to university environment as well. There's a real key change there. And if the sport isn't offered or easy to find, or they aren't hooked on it enough, that's when an easy dropout can happen as well. Male culture and male dominated environments, this is a really real key one. It links into a language conversation we'll talk about later. But this has been one of the top ones that's fed back around not feeling comfortable or not feeling happy being in an environment because they might be one of the only females, or the things that are said or things that are done, or the way they're treated in those environments. So that's also been a really key one that we're really looking to how we can address this and support the women. And the final one is unappealing kit. The feedback we got was that often the women are given men's sizes to wear, which is unflattering or just not nice. Or they don't feel comfortable in the kit that they have to wear at competitions. Some of these specific table tennis ones, we have been working hard on to understand how we can influence that or change that. And one of those is the kit. So we, about a year ago now, looked into how we can remove barriers at competitions so that when women and girls go, all they need to worry about is playing their best. And so removing the need to ask an umpire or an official if they can wear long sleeve tops or long sleeve bottoms, And so that went through and it's been really positive. And it's had a really positive impact on people feeling comfortable competitions as well. So things like that may seem small, but they can really add up and add to why women and girls won't take part in sport, or if they do, why they potentially might drop out as well. So as I said, continue on the barriers, but how to understand your target audience and where to go next when thinking about a women and girl, putting on a women and girls session, or wanting to provide better opportunities at your club or league or community-based session. There are lots of different barriers at different life stages, and also that provides lots of different opportunities. So barriers can be split into two kind of different key areas, thinking very broadly. So practical reasons, and also more emotional or personal reasons. Or this can also be seen as extrinsic or intrinsic factors as well. So practical reasons can include times that don't fit with work or childcare, or require too much upfront. So like they have to do a direct debit straight away, or they have to buy a lot of kit straight away. Things like that just could be a switch off for someone starting a new session or going back into the sport. Personal barriers are much more complex to address or overcome, but they go hand in hand with the practical reasons as well. So for example, a way to overcome someone feeling fear of judgment or lack of ability or confidence, or worried about knowing anyone there, we'll go on to a bit later. But for example, if someone's worried about their ability, a beginner's adult session can be really appealing if it's marketed well and made very clear that everyone's there. Beginners, little things like saying we have a bat provided here for you, or don't worry about kit. Some other sports have a lot of success with providing a lot of information around what you wear, having kind of imagery, which is people not in super sporty kit, especially for beginners. Those are like little things which kind of can tell someone that the session is for them. So often motivators can change as a person becomes more engaged. So someone may come to a session, think of the health benefits, or thinking, oh, I used to love table tennis at school, I want to get back into it. But now there's something else that hooks them there. And so that's when kind of a barrier can start becoming a motivator. So yeah, go along with the health benefits, but then they make really good friends, similar age group, or going through a similar stage of life, and that keeps them going every week. We know from the test report feedback and also the big table tennis conversation, one of the top reasons why women at any level, so from entry level participation, intermediate, kind of to the more competitive side, the social opportunities are always the hook. They're the thing that get people going back. They're the thing that people want from kind of competitions or at events as well. On the motivators as well, don't expect women to fit into what is existing at your club or league. It can be that the game for them is the same. So obviously it's table tennis, that part of the game won't change, but the opportunity needs to be different for them. They may have played when they're growing up and the structure there through competitions and clubs was fine, but now it's something they're going there for a different reason. They want to have a different motivation why they go every week. And if it's social, we do have a variety of programs, for example, TT Fast format, which is much more flexible to be delivered, but also on time frames, and much more potentially enjoyable for them as well. And that would get over the barriers. So if they're worried about time, TT Fast format can be a much quicker option for them, and that becomes their barriers removed, and their motivation then can be the main focus for them. So in order for behaviours to change sustainably from someone saying, I can't go there because of X, Y, and Z, the strength and motivation must outweigh the barrier. So the barriers must be removed or addressed, but that isn't always the only thing that gets them to take action to actually go there. There has to be a positive motivation. So providing a trigger, kind of thinking, right, so I have the TT Fast format there, I haven't got to worry about like being out late, or I can get back home to be home for a certain time. But then having the trigger, which then is the detailed information, is the key timing, is the right time, the right place, the right opportunity that causes action. So removing the barriers, having the right motivations, and having the triggers that appeal to that audience you're looking into. Those are the key things that all need to be addressed when thinking about putting on a session. They all go hand in hand together. So looking at kind of the barriers that may be faced by people coming to your session, your target audience, and that's where it's key to know who your target audience is. The motivators, so why would someone come to that session? Think about the social, think about the the potential health benefits there and what that might turn into, and then the triggers, the right time, the right place, right activity. All those three together will then hopefully help women get into your session in the first place. As I said, we will send these slides out because I appreciate there's a lot of information there as well. I'm just referring back to motivations, which I referred to in the task research. This will be sent out when we send this information out. But you can see here the top 3 motivators for people to play in table tennis: the social side, the friendships, and the enjoyment of the game and challenging myself. So maybe that one potentially is not so much the social side, but definitely the top 2 are really focusing on the enjoyment of who's there, the opportunity to be with other people. So yeah, that's a really strong factor, cool factor to think about when putting on these sessions. So the next thing when helping you determine who is the right target audience for you is understanding your current club or league setup. So really self-reflecting and looking at who is in your current membership, and is there a reason behind that? Is your membership heavily skewed towards a certain gender or a certain age, and is there a reason to that? Have you had members in the past who potentially are women or juniors and they've lapsed? Is there an understanding why potentially that is? Really looking from an outsider in. It might be that you're immersed in your club or league or community or organization, so you know what you're trying to achieve, where the club nights are. But if someone coming new into this, how easy would it be for them to work out what sessions for them, how they find a venue, things around if they're contacting someone, you've got a contact name for them to reach out to. Is that up to date? Are they going to kind of contact them and not have anyone come back to them? Because that also you've probably got this one opportunity with someone to get them hooked. So you want to make sure that that person's coming back with all the information, they're very friendly, they're the right person to speak to for a new member. And the same breath, so someone turns up to your club or league night, what would they think? Is there someone there who can welcome someone in, who can make sure they know where they're going, making sure that they feel welcome as part of that? It's a really key thing going to a new session, that people do feel like that it's for them, they're welcomed, and just little things like that makes such a difference. And having someone as well who potentially show them around, kind of almost buddy up with them, would help bring someone on board onto a new session. Do you have all the basic facilities? So for example, toilets, women's toilet, is it working? It's not full of kit. Making sure that accessibility needs are addressed as well. If you're saying you're an accessible club, you need to make sure that you actually are. And finally, what do your current members, so not always think about new people coming to your club as well, think about how you can improve the opportunities for your existing members as well. Do you ask for their feedback? Do you understand what their wants and needs and desires are? This is also a really good way of recruiting new volunteers or members at your club as well, to find out what they do, what they enjoy, and also sharing, if you're a part of a committee, sharing what roles you could really have help with. Often it's a way to bring more people on board. We will hopefully be launching soon a bit of an environmental checklist, which will help kind of this understanding where you go through and almost walk through your venue and walk through your club or league to understand, but we've got this. So if someone did come who had accessibility needs or needed a bit more support, we have that in place. So those key things are really important to self-reflect and understand when you think about your target audience and think about who you want to engage in the club or league. Understand the why. I would never recommend doing a one-size-fits-all women and girls session. There's so many different life stages that people go through, but also how you market to them, how you support them, and what your long-term plan is. It needs to be so much more focused with a certain target audience. So it's always think of the long term, why you want to engage the audience, and making sure you have the capacity in a year's time, if you engage quite a few girls or women through it, what will be next for them. So it's always that long-term planning. You never want to be in a situation where, say for example, you did a TT Kids session and you had 15 juniors come, and then 6 months down the line you weren't sure where to go next with them because your club or league was mainly adult based. So it's thinking what would benefit the club and why you want to engage that new audience. And now I'm not saying adult club can't engage new juniors, that's amazing, but it's always having that action plan in place. So here are just a few kind of key tips around promoting if you're going to do a new women session or a new girls session. Key things to think about when promoting it. So choosing the right imagery. So making sure you have imagery that reflects the audience you're trying to engage. I mentioned earlier around sporty kits. That would be immediate switch off for someone who's coming as a beginner. But someone who's having a good time, someone who's kind of potentially just in a gym kit, would be much more appealing to them. If you're going for a certain age group, make sure the posters reflect that age group as well. Marketing your sessions where your target audience will be. So if you know, if you're based in a leisure centre, you're wanting to engage, I don't know, during the day, a certain age or person that goes to leisure centre at that time, making sure it's in high footfall areas where they'll see it. So it's not used as much now, but it's definitely still a way to market it. For example, like in doctor's surgeries, or kind of local co-ops used to have kind of stand as well. So making sure you're really thinking about how you get that poster seen. And obviously there's lots of information online now. So for kids, we use Facebook ads. So things like that can really get your information out there to a new audience. Don't just expect to put it in kind of your club notice board or ask your member to promote it as well. It needs to be going out in the local area. I'd also encourage you to learn about your local area as well. So there's no point putting, and I'll use TT again because it's a great way to kind of show examples. There's no point putting a new TT session on a Tuesday night when down the road there's a Scouts or Brownie session engaging the same audience. But there it's a good thing to know about because they could potentially be interested in table tennis. But it's just understanding that you don't want to be competing with things that are trying to engage the same target audience as you, but don't see them as someone you can't work with. There's great opportunities to work with other groups that have a target audience you're wanting to work with. So considering important information. So especially when promoting to women, it's so important to have everything on there you need. So bring it back, don't bring it back. It'll be at this time, bring a drink. It'll be, when you come into the venue, this is how you find us. The postcode doesn't work, if you want sat nav, this is the postcode you need. All those kind of important things that someone might question before coming to a session, almost preempt it, and that will also make it much easier for them to get them there. Inclusive language, anyone's welcome. Obviously, if it's a session which is a very competitive session, make that clear. But anyone who is looking for that competitive opportunity should be able to be welcome at a session. And a key thing as well, it's fun. We want to make sure that people come into the session excited. They're excited to be able to see it and think, yeah, I want to go. So generating excitement, encouragement to pick up the bat and come to the session. So those are kind of a few, I guess, key top tips to think about a new audience. And I say new audience, it could be players you want to engage existing players that might have lapsed or don't come to that session or may play in a league but not in a club yet. That's what I mean by new audience, not just new players. And then some key things to avoid as well. So competitive intense language is particularly key for social or beginners as well. That will switch people off straight away. Making sure that if you're appealing to a certain audience, so if you say you want to go for a older age group or a beginner group, they don't necessarily want someone's kind of coaching qualifications on there or competitions they've been at. They probably want to know, qualified coach, delivering a session, you'll learn X, Y, and Z, super basic, all the skills you need to play a table tennis session. That's it. If you want to attract more advanced players, that's where you can start putting terminology in there, making it clear that that is for a certain player. You want to make sure that the language you use and the things you're offering don't switch off those players straight away. Don't assume a one size fits all and that everyone wants the same amount of table tennis session. This is where it's key to know your target audience and what they want to have a session. But that's where, when I said about earlier, don't just put a women and girls session on thinking you'll get lots of people in. You may get interest from women and girls that turn up, but then the issue you may have is what's next. If you have a 10-year-old, 20-year-old, 30, 50-year-old together, where's the next step for them? They'll have very different needs and wants and desires out of playing, and it's much easier to lose someone if you don't have a plan of action. Include too much information, not unclear information, making sure it's punchy to the point, making sure that everything on there is concise. If people may reach out to ask questions, but you really want it to be everything on there so they can just turn up. Looking at your website or social media, making it super clear in a few clicks that's where they find you. People can be switched off again by making it so hard to find that information. Again, you who may have set the website up may know where to go, but it needs to be super easy, user friendly. Be niche references. Don't assume anything. So if you're going to go working with a certain target audience, maybe try and speak to some people in that group, age group or ability, making sure that you aren't just assuming things you think they should know. And that again can be a big switch off. And then a big one here is avoiding gender-based terms. Going back into the task feedback, some of the feedback they got was around that male environment, saying they play well for a girl, or they lost to a bird, those kind of gender-based terms. Don't assume that just because someone is a woman, they want to have everything pink. Don't assume that they want to have a certain kind of session or be based around a certain thing, or they want to have opportunities to chat, to talk about things that would be gender-based activity like shopping or things like that. Don't assume anything about that. You're treating the person as an individual in front of you, not by their gender. You're obviously making sure the environment's right for them. You want to make sure that all the facts we've talked about are there, because the barriers are complex, but don't then be kind of leaning on the side of it, trying to make the poster go to the stereotypical gender norms either. And then focusing more on the girl side now. So this is where you want to really generate excitement. You're obviously talking to the girl here, but you're also talking to their parent or guardian, because they're the ones bringing them, they're the ones paying for them as well. And so it's a really key balancing act to get both things in there. So use encouraging and upbeat language, make them excited, make them want to kind of take the flyer home from school, or they see it out and about, and you want them to go home and be excited about playing table tennis. They want to give it a go. Inclusivity is key, making sure everyone's invited, everyone's involved, that they're going there as an individual and they can be that individual. They're not fitting a mold of what a player is. Speak about table tennis as a game and a sport, and be emotive. A lot of feedback we did with a under 11 group was talking around how sport is full of lots of different emotions and feelings. They like that. They like the positive side of being part of the team, the excitement, the fun part of it, and the social side. So really kind of ramping that up, kind of the excitement factor, is a really key part of engaging the girls. And very similar to the adult side, competitive language was a real kind of switch off for this girl group we spoke to. The girls liked teamwork, they were liking supporting each other, they wanted everyone to do well. So the empathetic and emotive attitude towards playing was a key part of that. So not just focusing on the competitive side. We also found feedback from coaches delivering to this session is that girls will often buddy up with someone and help them improve as well. So, or even though table tennis is more of an individual sport, they were approaching it as like a community-based thing. Again, don't be too girly with language and stereotypes. Same as women's side, don't assume anything about if they're just because they're girls that they want to have pink or certain language towards them as well. Don't try and speak in their language. Try and keep it really concise and clear, and keep to the table tennis side the details they need. And that is a key thing, is making sure that you're not using that slang, because again, it probably won't be right for them. But also remembering that we're appealing to girls and parents, and you don't want to get that lost in the messaging either. So moving on to some other factors now, which are at play. So workforce and volunteers are key to your success. So first impressions of the venue, the club or league is vital to them coming back. So this is obviously, the website is part of this as well, and the look of the field, but you've got them there now, you've got them at the venue. So these are key things to make sure they have an amazing first experience and want to come back. So think about key things around, if they've contacted someone on a website or on social media, is that person there? Or have they got someone they can say, hi, I'm new tonight, it's Jenny here, I spoke to her about coming tonight. So making sure they've got that contact point. We've had a lot of success with sessions having buddies, and they are looking out for these new people, but also during the evening can show them around where all the amenities are, the toilets are, the drinks fountain, kind of just giving them a bit like, this is where we go in, this is where we are, there's that if you need one, all those things. Making sure that the session is what they expect. So making sure that if it's a beginner session, they're having an intro to the sport, not assuming kind of their ability or anything like that, making sure they're at the entry point and they're in the right session for them. A key thing as well is keeping other members or participants at the hall. We often see at sessions or at league nights where the last 10 minutes, people start drifting in from the next session, making sure that if it's advertised a women's only session, it's a closed session, the league players can wait in the hall for another 5 minutes. As long as you're on time, making sure you're ending on time, that's a really key thing of trust by having a new women's session as well. And then give them a hook for next week. This is a really kind of key one around next week. We're focusing on this skill. Great to see you. Great to see you there. Making sure they know that you want to kind of see them back there, and that accountability. It won't always work, but keeping them excited about the session will be key. And also that kind of reward and success, making sure that you're not just celebrating like, for example, a skill being succeeded on, but other wins as well, like improvement. Those are key things that are important to celebrate as well, not just achieving or being the best or competing. So they're in the session now. You've got them in. So who is delivering or facilitating the session? These are really crucial things to consider. So the gender of the coach. So even if you have a women's session, it may not be always that you need to have a female coach. If it's a cultural session or it's a closed community who for religious reasons or cultural reasons would prefer or need to have a women's coach, that's a very different conversation. But generally, the gender of the coach, as long as they're the right coach for the session, is key. So qualifications, obviously, making sure you have the right qualifications for the coach, but the more qualified a coach is, doesn't necessarily mean they'll be right for that group. So you may have a fantastic level 1 coach who is super engaging, is great at beginners. They may be more suitable than level 3, who's fantastic with the top athletes for your club. So always bearing in mind who is the right person, who can be fun, who can bring what is needed to that session. And are they suitable? Making sure that they are the right person to be delivering that session. If you don't have someone who's qualified, can you have other people there supporting the session who are women as well? We've had quite a lot of success with male coaches who are great coaches leading the session, but at the session they have like 3 or 4 women who are also there, and that's been a real kind of support session. They're also your helpers. They're also feeding the ball. They're picking up balls. They're knowing what's coming next. They can keep on to making sure someone's having a good time. And then finally, what are the participants expecting? Making sure what you've said you will do at a session, you are delivering. So that's a really key part of it, making sure all the kind of people there, the volunteers prior to the session, and then who is delivering the session, they are key factors to keep those people coming back. And then the question kind of we always want to answer is, how do we sustain it, and how do we ensure growth, and how do we keep these women coming back? There is no magic answer, but these are kind of some things which will really help. You've got it right so far, so you know the right target audience for your club or league. You've got the right environmental factors there. You've got the right volunteers in place. You've got the right coach who can support those things. I've mentioned a lot of things there, but they can be quite straightforward. Your coach might be the volunteer that greets them. I'm not saying you need to have a whole army of people helping this, but if you've got to this stage now where all those factors are right, this is the key thing. We've done all that hard work, now engaging them. Let's keep them retained. So the key thing here is long-term planning. You need to be thinking 6 months to a year, 2 years in advance. What is the goal of the session? Why have you tried to engage this target audience? Where's the next steps? What will happen next? It may not be possible to keep a women's session or a girls' session always kind of in their closed community. So what's next? How will you kind of approach that transition stage with them? We always say as well, it's key. So if you do a teacher kids session on a Tuesday night, 5 p.m, the next session really needs to be the same time. The parents want to have it, the kids want to have it, you've got that time slot. So really think about the long-term planning. So there won't be a sudden change, or there won't be a sudden thing that happens to think, oh, this isn't why I signed up. People may join the club or league and fly and love it. They may join different sessions. They may join the actual league in a division and keep progressing. But some people won't, and that's fine. And that's one thing to think about your audience as well, that some people may join for the point of the social, and that's where they want to stay. And that's absolutely fine. But you need to know that your club or league can also facilitate that as well. Feedback. So get in that real habit of understanding what your existing members or participants, your potential members, participants want. So what they like, what they don't like. Don't assume you know what they want in a session. It may be sometimes that you're doing a coaching session or facilitating it and they're like, I just want to play tonight. So it's a really key thing to keep understanding and keep asking for feedback. If someone drops out, it might be that you can follow up with them and contact them and say, is everything okay? Is there anything we can do different? It might be that they've got a new job or something's happened you have no control over, but it could be that actually I really don't want to do any coaching anymore, I just want to play, and you might have another opportunity for them. So always keep that kind of communication open. As I said earlier, the sessions are what they advertised as. That's really, really key here, that people don't turn up and they're not expecting something and it's completely different. And then finally, communication channels, whether it's Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups, that's a really key thing. I know when I was doing a new sport, I was putting a WhatsApp chat with some of the existing players, and it'd get to like Tuesday evening, the session was at 7 p.m. and I'm like, oh, it's dark, it's rainy, I don't want to go. And I get a text saying, really looking forward to seeing you tonight. We're focusing on this drill, we're doing this, and I felt like, oh, I can't go now. I can't not go now, sorry. I'm excited to see them and I'll take part in the session. Those key things as well. And often we've had feedback, especially in kind of bigger clubs, where women and girls community really starts to grow and build. And that's where, again, you're getting new volunteers because they want to take over kind of set things of the session, want to be more involved. And that's a really great way to encourage more women and girls into your club as well. So just now we've got a few examples, and feel free to put your own examples in the chat, and Claire can obviously flag them, but just a few really good examples of girls only or women's only sessions. We do have an impact report, we do share cases online quite a lot, but these are just a few kind of really key ones I wanted to share. So Ormsby Table Tennis Club, they ran in the February phase TT Kids, and the coach there ran a girls session, a mixed session, and a boys session. And the coach read back how there was such a big difference between the girls only session and the girls in the mixed session. The girls in the girls only session were much less reserved. They weren't kind of hesitating to take part in a skill. They weren't worried about getting things wrong. And that was a really key thing for him, is that the girls progressed much quicker, but also they felt like they enjoyed it more as well. And then he got 60 girls at his session, which is obviously fantastic. And the next step for them is focusing on how they retain it. And the opportunity there for them was continuing the girls only session, or they could transition to a mixed session. So having those two options was great. And obviously the club is a big club. They've got lots of kind of opportunity to grow there. So this isn't applicable to everyone. It's a great example of how running sessions alongside each other can be really beneficial to the club and the participants. Another TT Girls for Girls session, but quite a different one. So this was Stratford-upon-Avon, and they retained 8 of the 9 girls, but the 9th girl should be coming back now as well. And Deb's obviously from the group, but it's a fantastic job of getting these kind of girls in, taking part in the sport. And she felt similar around. It really kind of pushed her as a coach in a good way to think of different ways to engage these girls, what they can do, but also reminded her it's fun. So TT Kids especially, it's fun, engaging, inspiring. And those were key things she brought out of it, wanting the girls to have a really good time. And that as a coach kind of was a really good reminder to her, and she got a lot out of it as well. And then the final example I want to share is a women's only baton chat. So this was down in Falmouth Docks, and prior to this, baton chat was much more, I guess, an older program, wanting to offer a slower pace. But Jane was able to engage women from 27 to 69. So she really had such a wide age range there. But the key thing was that they were coming for a social session. So no one really knew each other. People would make really long journeys to get to this session. And they had just had such a good time there. And she was able to kind of split them into ability, but they were also very open about what they wanted. So they would say, love this week. Can we do this again next week? Can we focus on this next week instead? And that was how she kind of catered for lots of different people in that one session. And so quite a few of these people did progress, and they moved on, and they moved into Falmouth Docks Table Tennis Club, but some did just stay in that session. So I guess that's a good example of how progression opportunity can be there It was advertised as, I think, an older session, but obviously the bat and chat social side obviously appealed to a much wider age range. So I've obviously gone through a lot of information there, but what support is available from Table Tennis England? So our staff time, so club sport officers, if you don't know who your club sport officer is, we can find that out for you if you're a Premier club, and also a Women and Girls project lead who isn't able to join tonight, but we'll be able to share these contact details. We are here to talk around projects or opportunities or how things could work for you in your club or league. You're not on your own with this. We can definitely have the conversations around how we can support you to decide target audiences, or if you have a target audience, looking into how we can engage more of that group. Level table grant funding, that is closing in I think a week or two's time, but the real focus there is women and girls. And so again, people I've mentioned, they can help you with a funding application for that. If that funding isn't suitable, there is support to look outside of Table Tennis England. So Support England funding grants, but also outside of that as well, can also be quite helpful to get programs off the ground. Or if you're looking for a bigger project as well, there is funding out there. There's lots of resources on our website. There's a Women and Girls area of our website. There's also Women in Sport, which has a wealth of resource, insight, data, and knowledge. And they have some really great podcasts in there as well that are talking to certain kind of key audience or target groups. And then finally, Sport England, the Active Lives research, but also This Girl Can, are really kind of key information there as well. So there's lots of information there to find, but I'll send these out afterwards as well. Cool. And that is all we're going to run through tonight in terms of information. So Claire, you can start recording, please.